South Jamaica, baby, they made me to be the greatest. Serving the deed of my creators, fresh off of my high haters. It's the king again, Magdalene, chauffeured, bragging and boasting.
Yo, what up, y'all? It's your boy Dollars. It's another day, another dollar video. Welcome to the channel. I'm going to be reacting to 10 things Netflix is hiding about Pablo Escobar. Now, recently I have been watching Narcos. I'm up to season 3, and I ain't gonna lie, I don't know why it took me so many years to finally watch it. It was like every time I would try to watch the first episode, I wouldn't pay attention. Like I just couldn't get into it. And then I started paying attention and then I binge watched it. So right now I'm up to season 3, which I think is the last season for the original Narcos. And then we got Narcos Mexico. And it's funny because I watched the Griselda series that came out not too long ago. And I watched that first. So I did it backwards. I did Griselda and now I'm doing the original Narcos and I'm gonna do the Mexico one. But I ain't gonna lie, man. Pablo Escobar was an interesting person. Like, I know the show was is different from real life. And shout out to the actor that played him because he did such a good job where you know Pablo's an evil bastard, but you still like him. It's like, I know he was responsible for so many evil things and killing so many people, but the show made me like him, bro. Like, it's crazy. You know, you saw the family side of him and it's like, damn, you're like, you don't want him to lose, but you know it's gonna happen because I know the story of Pablo. But yeah, man, I'm up to season 3, episode 3 or 4, and I've been enjoying it, man. Sometimes it's better to watch things late. Like I don't know, like I felt like it's perfect that I watched it now at this time. Like I don't know, certain shows is like that for me, where I feel like it's better when you don't watch it when it comes out and everybody's on the hype train. I like to watch things later than the people, you know? But yeah, man, without further ado, we're going to check this one out. I'm assuming it's going to just show you all the things that he did that they didn't show in the show. All right?
Netflix was created in 1997, just 4 years after the death of Pablo Emilio Escobar Gaviria. And since its inception, Netflix has had its fair share of fame, hits, and controversies. While the same can be said of Escobar, who sometimes in a single act attracted fame, hits, and controversy all at once.
I always imagine
no surprise, then, that when the two collided with,
if he would have been the president of Colombia, like that would have been crazy. Like an alternate history where he actually became president. Like that would have been crazy.
The release of Narcos in 2015, fame, hits, and controversy followed naturally. Netflix has been praised for the thorough attitude in which it carried out research and the artistic writing and directing of Brazilian filmmaker José Padilha, which lent rich dramatic effect to the story. However, in a story as political as this, there can be no such thing as perfect. And sometimes the devil might actually be in the details, messing with it. Now, hiding might be a strong word, but this video seeks to expose other aspects of the story.
I heard he was way more evil than the show portrayed him as.
The over-dramatized truths, the cartels and the surviving Escobar's side of the story, and more. If you haven't seen the show, this video is full of spoilers beyond the spoilers. These are 10 things Netflix is hiding about Don Pablo Escobar, Medellin cartel leader, the first narco-terrorist, and the richest criminal of all time. Number 10. Narcos original plan. The story goes that Netflix...
I do feel like they could have made his story a little bit longer. Like it's only 2 seasons, and then the 3rd season is about the Cali cartel. I felt like they rushed season 1 a little bit. Like they could have actually built up to the cathedral. Like the cathedral could have been a whole season by itself, but
had originally planned for this.
It is what it is. It's still fire.
Feature film, not a TV show. However, when they began digging up evidence and research on the King of Coke, they were certain that a single movie wouldn't cut it. They uncovered several stories about the origins of his wealth, starting from the man named Cockroach and his life before smuggling, which involved stealing gravestones. All these, coupled with the information of personal experiences that DEA agents Steve Murphy and Javier Peña brought to the table, showed the producers that they knew nothing about Escobar. Thus, Narcos was born. Writing for Vox, Bernardo Aparicio Garcia, who grew up in Escobar-run Colombia, appreciates the thoroughness of the show extensively. Among others,
yo, the chick that plays his wife, Tata, she bad, bro.
He cited the correct
she is
of ethnic
bad
and tinier details like miniature facades of colonial village houses hanging on the walls of Pablo's mother's home. Number 9. Escobar's recordings. One reason why the show was so detailed was because of these recordings. Pablo Escobar was a big believer in keeping records of events, and this included videoing events in his haciendas as they occurred. With
That's
this,
crazy.
They were able to create a pretty fair construct of the type of conversations, fashion, and activities in the daily life of Escobar and the people around him. In the movie, however, Escobar is mostly sitting around, brooding and looking into space while thinking of how to make the next big move in his wars with his own government. The truth is a bit different, as Escobar contributed significantly to the production of the show. In fact, it's
That's funny that he contributed directly because he held himself to such a high esteem. Like he knew he was gonna go down in history as somebody important, and it's like he wanted to document it every step of the way so people would have the actual facts.
clear that the Medellin Cartel was a fan of
Colombia
media,
looks beautiful
as some of his
too. I want to go
recordings
over
are
there.
inserted in the show, displaying the activities within his haciendas. On top of that, he was someone willing to buy or kidnap news reporters to tell his story. One thing's for sure, Pablo would have loved Twitter. Number 8. Family opinion. Of course, you had to know this was coming. And it's quite important too, because you have to wonder, how much of the story and how much of Pablo's interaction with his family was accurate? And how did the Escobars feel about it? To answer your question, Pablo's brother was infuriated with the show. And if you watch the show, you're probably now wondering,
His
where
brother's
was
not even in
Escobar's
it.
brother
Exactly.
all the while in the show? Roberto Escobar was not only Pablo's brother, he was also the cartel's accountant up until he was arrested when Pablo died. So believe me when I tell you, Roberto was not happy when the show depicted another accountant called Blackbeard being arrested and then snitching against the cartel to officials. In response, he requested
So why didn't they use the real brother for the show? And I guess it seems like he's mad at the fact that the person that they got to use instead of him was a snitch too. Like, I don't know if he told or whatnot, but that's what it seems like. Or maybe they didn't want to give him no money to do it.
compensation of $1 billion from the streaming giant for
Yeah.
depicting his and his brother's image without any consultation from him or other family members. This was just the first season, so he also
That's also like with Griselda's son suing Netflix because he said they disrespected him or some shit like that. Which I don't know how I feel like. I feel like if that was one of my family members, like the family should get some type of compensation, right? But then I seen something that says like they don't have to use or they don't need permission to do stories on these type of people. Like you're using somebody's name, image, like how don't you have to pay them? Like I don't get that.
also offered to look through the second season for inaccuracies before it aired. We're not sure that went his way. Meanwhile, other family members have also contested the portrayal of Pablo in the Palace of Justice siege, as well as the manner of his death, but we'll get to that soon. Number 7.
I ain't gonna lie, that was one of my favorite parts when he's talking to his son and then they see the cops coming and then Lamont passed him a gun and shit. I'm like, yeah, nah, that shit was crazy. I knew he was gonna die right there. I'm like, fuck, bro. It's like I didn't want to finish it, but it is what it is. This is a show I would like to rewatch again too.
Pablo Escobar's gruesomeness. Watching the show, you already kind of get the idea that Pablo Escobar was one of the most terrifying men to walk the earth. Speaking in Lithuania for log-in conferences, Agent Steve Murphy explains how, before Escobar, law enforcement was not familiar with narco-terrorism. Narco-terrorism involves the use of violence to influence government policies against narcotic
He was the
laws.
OG.
According to Murphy, Pablo Escobar was the first narco-terrorist. And to be fair, his terrorist activities are well documented in the show. What's also depicted is the fact that Escobar found it quite easy to order the killing of others. However, his personal dealings with people seem to be a bit benign, never resulting in anything deadly. Well, except the undeniable instances, like the killings of Moncada and Galeano. Other than that,
I feel like that's where everything just went downhill for him. You know, like he could have actually won the game, bro. Like he could have like just I heard what people said when he tried to get into politics, that was his downfall because he didn't like losing. And the fact that he lost and was disrespected and they outed him as a drug dealer, that shit didn't sit right with him. And he started just going crazy, taking out a lot of political leaders. But I feel like the fact they let him build his own prison, bro, like he would have just did his time and came out. But, you know, they had evidence that he killed 2 freaking guys at the prison, bro. Like, you can't do shit like that. And that's like what fucked him up. But I don't know. I was always thinking, like, yo, how could he make it out of this? Like, there had to be a way for him to win, bro. All that money. freaking at that time, like you gotta get surgery, get out the country or something.
In his personal space, Pablo is mostly shown as a troubled man with a romantic relationship with his wife and kids. In reality, Don Pablo was a drug lord through and through. Based on first-hand accounts from informants, Pablo would drill into his enemies' kneecaps if he felt like it.
Hey, yo.
Another unspoken fact is his treatment of mules. In the movie, Pablo used human mules, and he always paid them. In reality, Pablo sewed cocaine into pets that were going to Miami. Also, mules were sometimes killed to avoid spending a cash. This from the 7th richest man in the world at the time. One time,
he'd rather kill you than pay you.
Murphy and Pena was a waiter at one of Pablo's parties. The informant recounts that another waiter was caught pilfering silverware. Pablo was told of this, and he decided to duct tape the person's hands and throw them into the pool, created by the Paisa Robin Hood, and ended up drowning as entertainment for the guests present at the party. Another instance that we know of is the fact that Escobar killed every single architect who built any of his hundreds of houses.
Wow.
These architects, all Italian, were killed because Escobar didn't want anyone knowing the secrets of each estate.
So why the hell would they want to build houses for him, bro? It's like, yeah, help me build this house and then I'm gonna whack you so nobody would know. Like, that's crazy.
Even with the killings of childhood friends Moncada and Galeano, it was said that Escobar sent the fingers of the men to their family members. All these make you wonder the true extent of his cruelty not portrayed in Narcos. According to Bernardo Aparicio Garcia, the show largely glosses over his gratuitous cruelty.
Now this is making me want a new show or a movie that's actually accurate. Like, show him the way he was, bro. You know what I'm saying? Again, Narcos is fire. I still love the show, but like, I want an accurate portrayal of this guy.
Number 6. M19's true nature. This is the aspect of Narcos that most experts will have disagreements with. M19 was one of the largest guerrilla groups in Colombia. Their ideologies included left-wing nationalism, Bolivarianism, revolutionary socialism, and Foucault theory, inspired by Marxist revolutionary Che Guevara. In the show, M19 is portrayed as a bunch of naive idealists who didn't know the first thing about guerrilla warfare, and was led by an ex-college professor who also didn't know anything about guerrilla warfare. That, my friends, is a dramatic misrepresentation of the facts. M19 had one of the most feared presences in Colombia. Bernardo Aparicio Garcia details how his aunt had barely escaped the Palace of Justice attack. He sums up the story by saying, "It was not only my family in Cali who came close to dying at their hands. They were truly powerful, and they knew how to strike fear." Also, Ivan Marino Ospina, or Ivan the Terrible, was an experienced guerrilla leader as opposed to his depiction as Ivan Torres in the show. Before becoming leader of M19, Ivan Marina Ospina had already fought in Venezuela, gotten arrested, and tortured to the point of almost committing suicide, only to escape 6 months later while disguising as an army major. He was called Ivan el Terrible because he always did things the less diplomatic way, and so he was grossly depicted in the show. It is thought unlikely that Ivan was killed by Pablo, and some even say that he may not have gifted Escobar the famous sword of Bolivar. Number 5. Pablo's relationship with his family. Seeing as the family of the man was not consulted, despite being an integral part of the movie, it's only natural that their interactions with Pablo were imaginative, and that's a dangerous way to tell a story, especially if you already have preconceived notions. Perhaps no other relationship was more misconstrued than Pablo Escobar's relationship with his son, Juan Pablo, now known as Sebastián Marroquín. Sebastián is now free from the drug trade business, and he often talks about his experiences as the son of the biggest drug trafficker in several interviews. In these interviews, he explains how he remembered that his father
looked just
loved
like
him
his
very
dad,
much, while also balancing the picture with the effects of his violent activities, once saying,
"Well, I learned so much about violence that I became a man of peace, you know."
Sebastián says that his father taught him about all the drugs, saying that marijuana was Pablo's favorite. He should consult him if he ever decided to try any drug. Perhaps this education helped, or it was the memory of a relative who had suffered from the effects of drug abuse. But Sebastián has never felt the pressure to take drugs. One crucial component of Sebastián's interview is the fact that he recounts he and his mom begging Don Pablo to stop his incursions on Colombia.
It's funny
Most
how he was
notably
always
after the
rolling
bombing that
up
left
and
his
smoking
sister
on the
Manuela
show.
forever deaf in one ear. Their pleas, of course, fell on deaf ears, and Juan Pablo says that this was also a part of his father's nature of being a bad loser. He cited examples where he would cheat even his kids when they played games like Monopoly, simply because he wanted to win. Juan Pablo is portrayed as being very young
ultimate
and naive
competitor
in the show, even when Pablo calls him minutes before his death. But in real life, Juan Pablo was already 16 by the time his father died, and he has a radically different account of Don Pablo's death than what is in the show, and we'll get there soon. Number 4. Secrets of La Catedral. In the show, Escobar's 5-star prison is revealed as being...
I ain't gonna lie, this gotta be like the most gangsterous, iconic thing anybody has ever done in history, bro. You built your own prison. That's how powerful you was. Like, all right, I'm gonna make a deal with the government. You guys want to lock me up? No. I'm gonna lock myself up. I don't even know how long he had to be in there. Like, that's crazy. But the fact that they said okay and let him do that, bro, that just shows you, bro. Like, this dude was powerful. Like, you literally built your own fucking prison. And he had it on top of like a place where nobody could get to him. He could see his enemies coming way before they, you know what I'm saying? Like, it was a strategic point. And he had like a telescope where he could see his family in the city. Like, it's just crazy, bro.
luxurious, with a lot of the drug lord's personal items.
He had a
But it doesn't
casino
reveal
in there,
everything.
all type of shit.
Remember the recordings we talked about earlier? Well, there was even more Escobar content hidden in La Catedral. In the movie, Escobar leaves behind a large book with pictures in it. However, in Agent Murphy and Peña's book, Manhunters, How We Took Down Pablo Escobar, they explain, in his adjoining office, we found a film canister in the trash. When we had the film developed, we found pictures of Escobar, which we turned into wanted posters. Peña adds that he had every wanted poster that had ever been issued against him in Colombia, and just about every article that had appeared about him in his files. He also kept threatening notes from his enemies, carefully arranged. Escobar was very neat, and this was evident in the bathrooms of La Catedral, which Peña describes as curiously sparkling, with 3-inch walls. But perhaps the most shocking discoveries were the letters from mothers offering their daughters to Pablo for sex, the lace negligees, and several vibrators and sex toys neatly arranged in a closet. One interesting detail of their book, however, is the fact that Peña slept in Escobar's bed. He recounts that he couldn't find sleep in the bed, tossing and turning all through the night. Number 3.
You literally slept in that
Carlos
man's
Leder's
bed, bro? You
influence.
wildin'.
Carlos Leder was the son of Klaus Wilhelm Leder, a German who had left his country to Colombia, changed his name to Guillermo Leder, and married a Colombian called Helena Rivas. Carlos would later go to America with his mom after his parents divorced, and eventually, Carlos landed in prison. It was in prison that Carlos met a fellow inmate called George Jung.
That's the guy
They
from the
would
movie
both
Blow.
scheme on how they would revolutionize the cocaine trade and begin transporting drugs to the United States using small aircraft. Therefore, Leder had already begun the business even before he met Pablo Escobar, and was even integral to Escobar becoming as wealthy as he became. Leder himself would become a billionaire and even offered to pay Colombia's external debt twice, one of which was his plan to escape extradition. Unlike on the show, where Leder was just a knucklehead who was told to shut up in meetings and outed himself regularly on national radio. Well, the depiction of his story and fall from grace was far from comprehensive. Number 2. Escobar's suicide. If you know anything about...
So yeah, I seen something that said that Pablo's son theorized that his father took himself out because the way he gets caught, like, I want to actually do some more research on that because he knew that the feds were tapping his call. Like, he knew using that radio was a risk. So he died a day after his birthday, December 3rd. And it's like his son was saying that his father just wanted to die. You know, that he knew, like, he was just tired of hiding. At that point, he lost his empire. You know, he had nobody else to support him. He only had one Sicario with him, or Limon, which the show made him a Sicario, but I read up that he was just his driver. You know, he was really down and out, bro. Nobody to help him, on the run, the whole country looking for you. Like, it's just depressing. You get what I'm saying? You go from being the top guy to hiding like a rat in a hole. So the theory is that he wanted to die already, so that's why he made that call and stuff like that. And they also said that he shot himself. He didn't let the guys kill him, which I don't know. We got to look that up.
About Pablo Escobar's story, suicide must be a very strange word to be associated with his death. But pay close attention and we'll see where this takes us. Pablo Escobar killing himself is a claim made by close family members like his brothers, and most importantly, his son Juan Pablo. You see, Juan Pablo was the last person that El Patron spoke to before he died, and he gives a very convincing argument as to why he believes his dad's death was a suicide. Let's consider his points. The first point, Juan Pablo says that his dad had always told him that the telephone was death. This was because Don Pablo knew full well that the DEA, CIA, Centrospike, and the police officers were monitoring airwaves to triangulate the locations of cartel members. Pablo Escobar always spent very little time on the phone and ordered his son to always stay away from using it. The second point is that Escobar's family had just been rejected from Germany and were then forced to lodge in a Colombian hotel owned by the armed forces. This indicates that Escobar's family was never going to be safe wherever they went, and that the hotel phone lines were surely tapped. Pablo must have known these facts. The third point is the fact that Pablo had taught his son how to commit suicide in case they got captured. Juan Pablo says his father told him that the best way to avoid torture and die quickly was to shoot into the right ear rather than into the mouth. Pablo's brothers confirmed that Pablo had said he would rather kill himself than be killed by the people pursuing him, since it wasn't going to be a...
And let's be real, if they would have caught him alive, they would have tortured him, bro. All the people he killed, cops, family members of police, politicians, his enemies. I mean, bro, if they would have arrested him, they would have tortured him and then killed him. Or if they would have sent him to jail, he would have got killed in jail probably. Like, so I could imagine he already was like, fuck that. Like, I'm going to go out on my own terms.
Pleasant death. Now,
it's not beyond the realm of possibility.
These facts in mind. A certain Colonel Martinez and his son, Lieutenant Martinez, are using the directional finding gear to try and get any phone signal. At the same time, Pablo Escobar is talking to his own son, Juan Pablo, discussing an interview that Juan Pablo already knows about, on the phone. According to Juan Pablo, his dad called him 7 times, while he tried to cut the call each time. He recounts complaining to his dad that this was dangerous, as their phone was likely tapped, and he already knew about the topic being discussed. Juan Pablo understands that his dad is trying to save them from being interrogated by giving up himself. While on the phone,
he probably was saying that was like his final goodbye. You get what I'm saying? Like, that's why he kept calling, like, look, I just want to give up. I'm tired of running. After a while, bro, like, that's got to be the hardest thing to go on the run. Thank God I ain't never had to do that shit. It takes money. You know, you got to move at the right time. And it's like a constant level of stress. You're afraid you're going to get caught. You get what I'm saying? So imagine being in his shoes at that point where everybody's gunning for you. The whole country, you're the most known wanted man in the world at that point. And you're hiding in your own city where it's like, it's only a matter of time. Like the fear, the stress, you know, you worried about not your family, the police want to kill you, your enemies want to kill you. It's like, bro, I could not imagine being in that man's shoes at that period, bro.
Martinez is holding an antenna from the vehicle and suddenly sights the King of Coke looking back at him. After the police had gathered enough forces, they storm the house, and only then does Pablo drop the call, saying, "Something strange is happening here. I'll call you back." The shooting ensues, his bodyguard Limon is killed, and Pablo is shot on the roof multiple times before his body goes limp. On inspection, a bullet wound is found on Pablo's head. Guess where?
That's ear?
Right, the right ear. Personally, I find it curious that he was found and killed exactly a day after his birthday, almost like someone wanted to have a last supper, a last proper laugh. Number 1. Wagner Moura's pro-drug stance. Wagner played the role of Pablo Escobar in Narcos to perfection. The Brazilian actor was applauded for the role and is so synonymous with Escobar that his pictures show up on a Google search with the drug lord's name. However, they have even more in common. Moura believes that drugs like cocaine should be legalized, and following the experience of living out Escobar, he takes that even more seriously. This is because, in a world where cocaine was legal, Pablo Emilio Escobar Gaviria would have mostly been recognized as a shrewd businessman who became wealthy from nothing and gave back to the poor. Most of his ordered killings began with shutting up officials who wanted to have him locked up or extradited. But what do you think? Should cocaine be legalized?
I don't know about that one, man.
Did you enjoy this video?
I mean, to each his own, right? But anyway, man, this was an interesting video. And again, like, the more I learn about Pablo is like, even as a kid, like, I remember hearing about Pablo and it's like legendary. You get what I'm saying? Like, you just hear about the man, but you don't know anything about him. You just knew, like, yo, he was a big time drug dealer, but you didn't know he wasn't even a dealer. Like, he was just a baron, a drug baron, a drug lord, like, you know, and it's just his story. Something about his story is just captivating. I don't know what it is. I know we shouldn't glorify these type of people, but it was just interesting at that time period. There was people like this that existed that, come on, the shit that he did, bro. His life it was a movie. You get what I'm saying? And yeah, like he's just one of those characters like Griselda, him, Chapo, that are just it just captivates your mind. Anyway, I definitely want to know some more, and I would like to see more content about Pablo. You know, there's a movie I seen. I don't know the name of it, but I want to check it out. There's a lot of stuff. I feel like there's a lot of stuff that they haven't showed us yet about him or talked about, and I still want to. I still want to learn more. All right. Anyway, it's your boy Dollars. I'ma holla. I'm off this one.
For my time goes by, they gon' raise a nigga jersey in the sky. Treat a nigga right, big dreaming on my life. Shorty wanna get some air, I go and get her when I fly. Taking off on these niggas I retire. The minute I catch fire, I smoked them all before, just revisiting the high.